So hello friends, Kuyan here, and today we're going to react on something that is very dark, something that is actually a lot deeper when it looks, because I heard a lot when it comes to in the past about like Discord stuff and like age verification and stuff. They're actually like connected to this like one company that is also part of Epstein. Like it's actually kind of crazy like how the world is now unraveling before our eyes, like how deep things have been going, and I don't know like how even Discord do this, or like even the company that they've been connected to. That's actually very fascinating too. And I always kind of wonder why majority of the government in today's world are now creating this age verification and stuff. Like I don't know what that even means. Like what's the end goal here when it comes to this age type of verification. Without further ado friends, hopefully before you go to play this video, you can leave a subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to getting like 500 subscribers in this year. Hopefully I can get that little milestone, So yeah, thank you for all the support friends, and let's get right into the video.
So guys and gals, me Mudahar, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into probably one of the most evil companies in the world. Now in the last few days I talked about Discord, that application that I'm sure all of us use, right? Especially the gamers. Now you
I don't actually use Discord. Well, I actually used to use Discord in the past, but now I usually don't
probably
know
heard that
what to even do about it.
Discord is doing a lot of that age verification. And the problem with the age verification is, who are you hiring to do such age verification? Well, in my last video, I actually talked a little bit about a company known as Persona. Not the video game. The video game's actually awesome. But for anybody that doesn't know, Persona is actually a tool that Discord was using, at least in the United Kingdom, to verify its users' age. Now, Persona is a little application that you can view right here on their website, withpersona.com. And basically, it doesn't really, it's just your standard corporate website, right? But ultimately, the end, they're the ones that are the big companies, one of the big companies involved in verifying if you're an adult or not. Now, whether they take your, personal ID, whether they take your selfie, a lot of that information sometimes doesn't actually leave their server. They might be storing it, they might be harvesting it, they might be using it.
Yeah, it's really hard to trust when it comes to these type of people if you don't know what's going under the hood.
Now, depending on what they say, it's up to you to trust them or not. Now, me personally, I don't really trust any of these companies, and I don't think you should either. But in my last video, I looked at a company like Persona, and we kind of linked it to Peter Thiel, one of the big billionaires in the United States, one of the people tied to a company known as Palantir. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what Palantir...
This is also like what I've been seeing, friends. Like even in the tech sphere, like Palantir and even like Oracle has been like getting a lot of this type of stuff. They're actually like buying like even open source stuff. It's kind of very weird like how these companies are now trying to like incorporate like open source technologies and stuff, even like in the Linux space there too. Like even like I think MySQL was actually like was actually captured by Oracle, or even like I think it was VirtualBox was also part in Oracle. So it's actually very weird.
Here is
I don't know like what's going on in the background.
I want to
But I
start.
think I did make a mistake. I think it was I think it was VirtualBox. I actually forgot, but it's a VM type of like software.
Start off this video by kind of front loading it with that. Why? Because I think it's important to teach the average person what their country is doing, especially if you
I didn't actually know that Palantir is a thing in Lord of the Rings.
live in the United States, where Palantir is basically the de facto surveillance tool that the government is using to track all of the people around you, okay? It's crazy out there. It's wild. So let's go dive deep in to not just Discord, but Peter Thiel, Palantir, and the entire mass surveillance state. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, literally a few days ago, Discord decided to implement a global age verification policy where, in March, they're going to be kind of putting every single one of us into a teen account. And while they say they have an AI model that can verify most people as adults, there's going to be cases where some individuals are going to have to be using age verification. Now, for a lot of people, they looked at one of the vendors, at least in the United Kingdom, was known as Persona. Now, Discord kind of responded to this, and I want to read their response. Again, I think it's important that we cover every side of this story. Discord's sitting over there going, hold on, guys. Some users in regions outside the UK and Australia may see age assurance prompts when accessing certain features or settings as part of ongoing experiments. Now, I don't know about you and me, but I at least like to be told if I'm part of an experiment. Who are you?
Yeah, it seems like in today's world, the UK or the United Kingdom in this case is like the most experimented like nation when it comes to like surveillance and stuff. It's like how much the government can, like take a lot of their powers within their citizens. It's actually kind of scary.
Experimenting with, who are you sending this information to? Now, obviously, Discord, with all the obvious backlash, didn't decide to just cancel this, but at least, from what I'm reading, they've kind of pulled back their connection to Persona. Now, to give you an idea, Palantir
Okay.
Technologies has been around for quite a while, since May 2003, when they were incorporated out in California.
Well, actually born in 2003. Well, I born in November.
There were actually a few individuals behind here. Peter Thiel, obviously, for anybody that doesn't know, co founded PayPal and is by far
Ah,
one of the richest investors in the world. Of course, you also have people like Alex Karp, who famously went on stage, I don't know, under the effects of cocaine or whatever, but he is an individual who became the CEO of this company and was probably one of the most paid CEOs at one point. And obviously, it's in his benefit that the government keeps buying his tools to spy on the average person. So, when they first made Palantir, a lot of it was to fight back against PayPal's and sort of making a fraud detection system for PayPal. But the reality is, the feds
it's kind of funny like how fraud they at it's kind of funny like how PayPal have a fraud detection even though they are the one who like make all the fraud and stuff, especially when it comes to like, Honey extension from your Chrome browser. That was also like a shit show.
specifically the FBI, ended up coming out to PayPal and said, listen, your technology is really awesome. Can we end up bringing it for financial crime
Interesting.
detection or anything like that? So at that point,
This is so deep, man. Like how much dark lore has been going on behind the scenes?
Peter Thiel jumps in and he's like, wait a minute, why just finance crimes? What about if we could maybe detect things like terrorist threats? And of course, remember, this is post 9/11. Remember, when the Twin Towers went
Yeah.
down, shit like the Patriot Act started getting passed. People were genuinely afraid of actual terrorism. People still to this day are afraid of actual terrorism. But back then, it was so scary that people were willing to give up actual rights just so they could feel a little bit safer. Let the government read into every single email you got.
But it's kind of weird. Like even in today's world, I think majority of the world is actually on a ongoing war. Like majority of the world, so kind of weird. Like how much everybody is scared about terrorism when it comes to like other parts of the world. War is actually becoming more and more common these days.
Let them browse whatever they need because, hey, at the end of the day, if you're safe from whatever bin Laden's out there, then maybe ultimately it's a price worth paying. Obviously, we know now that when you throw the
Oh,
baby out with the bathwater, it ain't exactly a good deal, okay? We made a deal with the devil and we're still paying for it to this day. So eventually, to give you an idea, a lot of people looked at this company and they were just like, I don't know about it, man. Like a lot of these VCs. There was one VC in particular, and we talked about it before on this channel, In-Q-Tel. Now, for anybody that doesn't remember In-Q-Tel, In-Q-Tel is a legitimate venture capitalist firm that is solely run by the Central Intelligence Agency. So yeah, the
oh,
CIA themselves decided to invest around $2 million back in 2004, 2005. And obviously, this wasn't just the CIA investing in them. This was Washington. This was the US government putting their money into this organization. Now, eventually, what actually happened was a whole suite of software ended up being released. So, for instance, the first software of note was Palantir Gotham back in 2008, which basically was a flagship like defense and intelligence software. And of course, what it did was something
I always wonder if these are like open source and stuff, for people to, I guess, incorporate more and improve more of the software. That's gotta be crazy though.
known as ontology, which basically transformed raw data that was provided from various sources into objects that would represent things like people, places, things, events, so on and so forth. And it would actually start mapping relations between them. So, for instance,
Yeah,
you could
because if you don't know, friends, like I've been reading also some Sun Tzu, like Sun Tzu Art of War books. It's actually very crazy, like how intelligence is always like the top of the spear. Sometimes the execution too. Like I think the first thing is all about intelligence and knowledge. The second is all about how much you can execute that knowledge. That's why you have to be wise in case. I think Sun Tzu also said that. And the third thing is all about. I think it was I think yeah, flexibility. It was how you can be flexible, how much you can be like adapt to your environment through the changes. It's like how you can like win over those type of war. But also there's a case where you actually can win a war with just, mere intelligence or without even fighting for that matter. I think the best example of this is like, America when it comes to when it comes to kidnapping the Venezuela president. It's like majority of them, yeah, they did get to a war, but I think they achieved the goal of, kidnapping the Venezuelan president in very quick, swift, military action
throw in like
and
100,000
stuff.
points of data, and it would actually connect all of those points of data with each other depending on how relevant they were. It was crazy. It was awesome. It was what the government wanted. For instance, when it
Next,
came to the FOIA, which was used to obtain LAPD manuals, it actually showed that Gotham allowed them to, the LAPD in particular, to search by like your name, race, gang membership. I mean, even
whoa.
down to your scars and various identities. They could
Yeah, I actually like heard a story about this too when it comes to like Johnny Harris, but when his video about like how the US stole, I guess, Puerto Rico, like it's actually kind of crazy like how the FBI like really just like try to make a list, like an entire document about your entire life, your mistress, your children, your like other lovers. Like it's kind of crazy. Your number, the plate number of your car, how where you go, where your friends are, what your cousins are. Like they can try to blackmail you. They try to like give you like threats for somehow. They try to like exploit your like, you know malicious relationships. How much debt you are that you have. How much gambling addicts you are from all your money that you stolen. It's actually kind of crazy like how deep they can like spy on.
basically identify anyone. A single
Yeah.
individual could have been identified by any various amount of characteristics. And according to the FOIA documents, the
And they can use those type of information to like, spread out, like I guess try to really demoralize you. Like the entire protest group when it comes to like in the Puerto Rico, they try to gain this themselves some independence, but when it comes to this like information and the blackmailing of the FBI, they usually just like they they just smash them. They just smash all of the protests. Like they're just like mistrust each other. They're actually scared about each other. It's actually kind of very fascinating. I would actually love to react that someday, like how scary it is, like being spied on and try to like use all your information against you.
LAPD had like 5,000 Palantir accounts. At that point, it was more than like half the LAPD police force. Now, Gotham is basically something that is run across all over the Department of Defense. So whether you're in the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, yeah, Palantir is basically like the bread and butter of these like intelligence agencies. Palantir is one of those
Mm.
companies that if you Google up right now, you probably wouldn't get a straight answer. Somebody actually has to dig through the trenches to tell you what they actually do. They are a mass surveillance company, and their actual utility spreads far and wide. And a lot of it is, in a way, very controversial to an extent. So, for instance, a lot of people probably know of somebody known as Edward Snowden, especially if you
Yeah,
watch my channel. I've talked about Edward Snowden, especially in the context of something known as PRISM, where a huge leak
I think he's still in prison. I think till today, like it's kind of sad, like how Snowden has been, captured.
came out showing how far the government was in bed with a lot of big tech companies, where like it came out that, the big tech companies were effectively backdooring themselves over to the US government. So for a lot of people, their personal information could just be grabbed at any moment without a warrant, without any form of, without any form of legal protection that the people should have. And one of those things that Edward Snowden in particular showed was something known as X Keyscore Helper, which was a Palantir tool that was allowing the NSA analysts at the time to import data from the X Core, like X Keyscore, like a forensic system that they had, which collected things like your emails, your chats, your pictures, documents, so on and so forth. Basically, when it comes to mass surveillance and mapping out data across the world and spying on the citizens, Palantir is sort of the technical strength, the third-party company that everyone sort of hires when they want to spy on anybody out there. That is their job. That is their bread and butter. That's how they make their money. When it comes to predictive policing, you probably watch movies like Minority Report where they can decide if you're guilty, basically, or if
Yeah,
you're a threat before you actually even commit
really.
crimes. And to an
That's
extent,
like
that kind of exists.
I never actually like what I kind of watched like near end of that movie, but that sci-fi movie was actually kind of crazy.
Especially when it comes to things like Palantir's like predictive policing systems, where again, even in secret arrangements back in 2012 all the way up to 2018, they were operating in areas like New Orleans. It was so secret that the city council members were actually unaware of the fact that there was actually a system that was analyzing their citizens. And of course, it would analyze things like criminal history, social media, of course, obviously the gang affiliations that we learned that they were doing during their time and stint out with the LAPD, probably still there to an extent. And they would even
I always like wonder if ICE, in America too, like how they're trying to like, I guess, get all of their immigrants outside from their nation. It's actually very fascinating if they are using these type of technologies to spy around their own people, to designate all of the people to be immigrants somehow within their like analytics stuff and intelligence. It's actually very scary.
create like a list because they could map out connections of people that could be potential victims and perpetrators. Like, you ever play the game Watch Dogs and you see how the CTOS can predict if somebody is going to be a victim or a possible crime is going to be happening? It's crazy to think that that was actually a reality. That actually is a thing that happens in the world, right? And again, you have to dig into the trenches. You really have to research Palantir to know this stuff is happening around you. Even when it comes to things like ICE, for instance. Now, a lot of people talk about immigrations and customs enforcements and, kicking all the illegals out of the country. Now, the thing about the illegal migrant situation or whatever you want to get into is it's a hotly debated political issue, but it's one of those things that's similar to 9/11 to me. And the reason I say this is because it's kind of a massive like tragedy. It's a massive political, it's a massive galvanizing force that a lot of the government, a lot of these private organizations are taking advantage of, basically in the sense that Palantir exists to sell a surveillance product to the government, which in this case would be something that you probably have heard of as Immigration OS. In April 2025, ICE signed a $30 million no
Oh,
bid
obviously they're talking about ICE. So I guess this is where we're going.
contract for Immigration OS, which basically allowed Palantir, was actually something that was built on top of it. It's the
Yeah,
Immigration Lifecycle Operating System.
very creepy, right? Like very creepy, like how they're using these type of technologies to spy on you.
And it provides almost near-time visibility on the movements of migrant individuals, using obviously artificial intelligence and the various data points that Palantir is so good at mapping out. And alongside things like Elite, which is the enhanced leads identification and
Even their movement? Wow.
targeting for enforcement, it would basically map out the potential deportation targets, it would create dossiers, it would basically apply a confidence score to various addresses that ICE could hit, and basically give a reasonable assessment that the address you're about to hit is probably going to be filled with illegals. Now, the reason why I was kind of tying this to 9/11 is that at the end of the day, regardless of what you think, Immigration OS is mass surveillance. It's predictive policing on the federal crack-enabled level, okay? It's insane levels of mass surveillance that people are kind of looking at, thinking that, oh, they're just going to be using this to crack down on illegal migrants. Well, do you think if they're going to develop this technology that they're just going to massively forget about it like some point down the road? No. They're going to use it against the next target that the government wants to go against.
I think if you kind of think about it, friends, it's like even in today's world, especially like political stuff in America, like you are even like cut down between, left and right type of politics. I won't be surprised if people already like analyze when it comes to like people and their mindset and their like, you know, personalities when it comes to like separating people into two groups so that they can fight each other and, try to, I guess, try to make people like stop thinking about the right stuff, more like arguments within both like type of groups and not making any type of right or any type of effects of like making some things to change in your own country because you're two just like fighting each other, especially like I think I guess you can also call like propaganda when it comes to like TV shows. It's like majority like you can even feel that your parents are always like sided with one side of the politics aisle when it comes to like talking about politics. So that's what I always kind of think about, like how in the country like can easily be influenced by these type of governments or stuff, like just knowing like even just saying stuff and just put them out there on the, I guess, on the TV show or on internet.
And that could be somebody that is legally allowed in the United States. However, they might be somebody that is a political dissident, somebody that is speaking against the system. Right now, we are at a pivotal point that unless you speak against this shit, and if you let it happen, this is the reason why I've been talking so much about age verification, your privacies, things like self-hosting. It's not because that in a year from now I'm going to be living on a farm in complete, solitude from general public.
Hell yeah, brother. Or also in a cabin in the woods or something, like just go hunting and stuff. That's a pretty content life, actually.
I don't know, maybe. I have no idea. I can't predict the future. Maybe Palantir can. But the idea of it is that if you don't fight against it now, if you don't raise awareness to it now, the world will look very different in the next 5, maybe 10 years.
Kind of sad, when you think about it, friends. Because like there's a lot of like stories about like 1984 from George Orwell, The Farm by George Orwell, like even the movie Minority Report. It's kind of sad. Like we have a lot of this like you know movies that actually warn us about this type of futures that is going to happen, but we're just like living in ignorance in today's world. It's kind of sad.
And we might be living in that cyberpunk dystopia where getting spied on and having an opinion is something that actually is going to be treated pretty illegally. It's going to be where,
Yeah.
you might not really be allowed to speak your mind because maybe there are powers that be that don't want you to speak your mind and they don't want you to rise up and step against the grain. Now, there's
And the most scariest thing about this too, friends, is like even if you do speak up, like you're gonna get targeted by the governments because they already know who you are. That's the scary thing. That's the scary thing part about getting known and getting all your information by the government and getting spy on you. Like they won't be surprised. It's like blaming you and stuff like that may happen or didn't happen in your life. They try to like I guess call all of your family to just spy on you, even might potentially dox you in some way. That's how the scary this
something about Peter Thiel that is super interesting to me. Back in October, September, literally in 2025, not that long ago, literally a few months, you might have looked up that Peter Thiel was hosting these like 4-part lectures in San Francisco talking about the Antichrist. Now, for full context, Peter Thiel wasn't talking about the Christian idea of an Antichrist. I think Peter might fit more into that, if anything. But to give you an idea, Peter Thiel was talking about the Antichrist being like a Luddite who literally didn't care about understanding, somebody that wanted to stop all forms of science. So people like Eliezer Yudkowsky, who literally is an AI safety advocate for crying out loud, right? Basically anybody that can, talk about raising regulations or awareness in the dangerous spaces that he operates, he doesn't like it. Because if you get in front of Peter Thiel and his money, not even just his money, if you get in front of him and his power, he's gonna go fucking batshit insane. This slimy scumbag piece of shit will find everything that he can to convince people in Washington to buy his shitty products and give up your freedoms if it means a slightly higher net.
It is also very sad, like majority of our government is just using the tax money to improve their power and making them stronger in a way that we're just like using to tax the government to, I guess, punish us in some way.
Worth and slightly more power. So again, I want you to understand, this is who the current government has decided to partner with. A fucking nut job, batshit insane, authoritarian fuck. That's who. Now, to give you an idea, I don't want to walk into this video and not paint Peter Thiel as the scumbag he is without any evidence to back it up. Obviously, I think there's plenty out there, but really one of the most important pieces of evidence that I think kind of exists is the fact that he is a really, really close friend with guys like, Jeffrey Epstein, for instance. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, literally a couple weeks ago, there was a massive disclosure release, like 5 million documents that released about Jeffrey Epstein. I'm still making videos on it. There's still things in the pipeline. I've made plenty of videos covering it because there's just so much.
I'm actually kind of a little bit tired when it comes to like reacting to this, but who knows, friends? Like, do you want me to like react more from Mudahar's video about these, Epstein files? I mean, comment down below if you wanted to watch me for that.
Information. But more specifically, there actually is around 2,281 files that exist showing emails and conversations between Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein. Mentions in the files alone with Peter Thiel. So he is by far one of the most mentioned guys in the archive. Now, to give you an idea, the relationship began somewhere around 2014, long after Epstein's actual conviction. So Peter Thiel, given the fact that he knows pretty much everything about everyone, should have actually known the kind of person that he was getting friendly with. So there was at least half a dozen scheduled meetings between people like Peter Thiel and Epstein from 2014 all the way to 2016. And a lot of them actually at Epstein's like New York townhouse. And again, you can verify and look these up yourself in the Epstein files. Heck, I can show you a few emails on the screen right now. They were actually quite buddy-buddy. Peter Thiel took great judgment. Now, the important part about this is Epstein is kind of tertiarily related to this entire situation because even he invested $40 million into Valor Ventures, a fund managed and originally co-founded by people like Peter Thiel back in 2015 and 2016. Now, that investment that Epstein made actually grew to...
I do kind of like happy about Francis. Like I did watch like some certain type of value investor when it comes to like you know investigating. I no not investigating, doing some research when it comes to like stocks and stuff. It's kind of very fascinating that he said that PayPal is not actually a good way to invest your money. Even though there's actually a lot of people that trying to like invest on PayPal, it's not a good business if you can think of it because it has no moat. Right? When it comes to the words of when it comes to the words of Warren Buffett and stuff, like you need some kind of a moat. And PayPal don't have any type of moat. Like there's even like Google, PayPal and stuff. I know Google, Apple Pay, Google and Apple Pay. I think the Play Store sometimes. I think even credit cards and stuff. There's also Payoneer and Stripe. There's also like Stripe that I also hear about. So there's a lot of competition. Like no moat at all. Also, this is not financial advice. I just like this is just what I've heard.
around $170 million, making it effectively one of the largest assets at the time in Epstein's estate. And of course, people like Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister of Israel, no doubt, was also describing that fund at the time as co-founded by both Thiel and Epstein. So they were not just monetarily related, but it seemed like they were actually pretty good friends. And even though Thiel's spokespeople will say that there's no co-ownership, they still confirm that Epstein was a limited partner in this case. Again, I think there needs to be an investigation in this right here, okay? Because, I don't know, I think there's probably a lot more than money. These people seemed very buddy-buddy with each other, and I want to know the extent of that relationship. Because if this scumbag is allowed to know everything about me, I think we should know everything about him, too. It's only fair. Now, again, I don't want to sit there and say that, Thiel is a criminal because he's so associated, but I think it's worth the investigation. And I think if the government had any fucking testicles, they would pursue some investigation on pretty much anybody associated with Epstein at the time. But importantly, it was this company, these venture firms that were connected to, companies like Persona. So it makes you kind of wonder, right? Like Persona, the actual tool, the experiment that was used by Discord. It is connected to people like Peter Thiel monetarily. Why is somebody like Peter Thiel, who believes that he knows better than you, believes that democracy and freedom are no longer viable products to be sold to the American people, why is he investing money into an age verification system that coincidentally grabs selfies, grabs a ton of identification off people?
It is very scary, like especially like when it comes to like Google too and Apple and like even Discord nowadays is like trying to have this global age verification and stuff. It's like, why age verification to be specific? Like, I don't know what we are even like trying to like protect here. Like, I know they're trying to like protect the children. This is why I'm also like confused about. Like, I don't really get what's with age verification. What's age for this specific, matter?
And promises that they'll delete it. I mean, promises are promises. I mean, who knows what's going on in those servers? Last I checked with Discord, last time they tried grabbing people's IDs, it ended up getting leaked out to the public to grab. Peter Thiel is one of the richest guys in the world. And he's somebody that craves power. He's somebody that knows how to obtain that power. He's somebody that knows that whoever controls the surveillance game is somebody that's going to be around for the long term. Because surveillance is one of those products that is always in demand by the government.
I think there's always two things that is very powerful in this world. I think first is surveillance, intelligence, and knowledge against your enemy, and propaganda, how much you can influence other people to, I guess, how much you can, change their mind and stuff. That's how scary, like sometimes this type of stuff, that knowledge alone can be so dangerous that you can easily control much of the world actually in your whim.
And Discord is actually just a small piece of this puzzle. Remember, Discord is the most normie used communications platform out there. It's not just gamers that use it, everyone uses Discord. And I think with
Mm.
what happened with Discord the last few days, I think the best thing to happen from it is this discussion that we know that these age assurance platforms are not only dangerous for you when it comes to your personal privacy, but also when you start to look at where
That's why it's always best to just use a VPN.
they're getting their money from, and it's all these mass surveillance organizations. Maybe it's time we reassess this shit and we stop allowing these companies to operate in the fields that they are. Because look, ultimately, it's up to you to decide if this is a fight worth having. I personally believe it is, but really, I make these videos to try and wake up the average person. And I hope, since we're nearing the end of the video, you're kind of waking up a little bit and realizing that this shit ain't normal, man. I think ultimately the end of it, people like Peter Thiel should stay far away from our personal identification, from our government, from the ability to regulate what we can and cannot do. I think it's insane that we're at a point where we need to honestly be talking about it. You know, years ago, I'd be playing stupid video games on this channel. Years ago, I'd be looking at stupid 4chan mysteries. I'd be looking at things like Club Penguin servers run by derelict idiots on the internet. I'd be looking at things like, you know, Alex from Tennessee all over 4chan. But there is something genuinely scarier than all of that. And it's the power these people are actually gaining at an alarming rate. Look, I think the internet is one of those things that's the last bastion of real human connection. And
Yeah, and it's actually a beautiful thing. Like the internet is actually still open actually to anyone other stuff. Like even if the government can control a lot of companies and all the data, you can still have the dark web. So there's still like a lot of stuff that you can still explore. And it's kind of unfortunate that if you want to go to those type of, dark stuff or like not dark stuff in some way, like the deeper end where, the internet is more freer than before, it's usually like if you want to go there, it's usually like you're practically alone. The same on like Discord stuff. Like, yeah, Discord is like the biggest stuff, like I guess social media sphere, like where a lot of people can talk with each other. But there's actually like a lot of like other like what do you call this, like other open source and stuff. It's like alternatives when it comes to like Discord. I think there's also, I think I hear about, I guess, Mastodon and stuff like that type of stuff. There's also like a lot of, I think you can search this from your own. I actually forgot a lot of those, alternative to Discord. But yeah, there's actually like a lot of like Discord alternatives that unfortunately, if you want to use them, like I think nobody can use them other else than your own. Like that's the unfortunate thing about like going. The more free you are, the more lonely you are. Unfortunately,
real human freedom. We don't really have freedom anymore, regardless of where you live, right? Like, you're always being watched, you're always being spied on. Shit's getting way more expensive every single fucking day of our lives.
I don't think I believe. Well, there is truth to that. I don't like disagree with him, but I only disagree when it comes to like there's no freedom. I think there's always still freedom, like especially when it comes to the internet and as I said, the deep end of the internet. But unfortunately, nobody scoured those types of like internet because majority of the company, hold a lot of majority of the people. So yeah, if you want to go, as I said, if you're more go into the freedom side of part, you're practically a lot lonelier.
And it sometimes seems like the next day is becoming an uncertainty. And it's difficult not to stop doom scrolling. I mean, it's all around us. Doom and gloom is everywhere. And it's one of those things.
I think this is usually because, as I said, like this type of companies, it would be very easy to manipulate you when it comes to their type of algorithm, like trying to make you helpless and stuff. That's why I don't actually go to like the internet a lot. Like I majority of not like I just watch YouTube and stuff. Like I don't like I watch like Murahar and stuff. Like I also watch my old type of gamers. That makes me like happy and fun. Like also some good news, like always get yourself some good news and stuff. I would actually like re-upload some good news and stuff here on my channel, even though they don't get a lot of views. I think it's just a lot more helpful, I
Where
guess.
the internet and the last way for us to truly be free, truly live in a digital space, even where we can communicate to somebody from all across the world.
Yeah,
You know, when I look at communities on the internet,
it's
when I
sad.
look at the world for what it is, I think I don't joke when I say the last bastion of real freedom is the internet. It's the last
Yeah.
place that we can actually anonymously talk.
And also connect to a lot of people in other side of the world. That's actually a crazy concept.
When I did dark web browsing every single Sunday years ago, before I found every single dark web website visiting, yeah, there was a lot of fucked up stuff that came from anonymity, but there was a lot of communities that came around talking about stupid, goofy shit. People who could genuinely voice an opinion and talk about what was on their mind without feeling like Big Brother was watching, without feeling like some government entity knew every single thing about
Or any type of algorithm that can be feed to you and change your even opinion and the way you're thinking, try to make you helpless actually.
them. And
I think the algorithm in today's world is the most severe one. It's not even like how people are watching you, it's about how you're even like, I guess, digesting content.
eventually the hammer would come down and they would just be disappeared. I, I feel like that's a fleeting memory because for people
I
like
don't believe that. I believe the opposite. I think there will going to be a way for this to like, revert back to the beginning. Like hopefully there is when it comes to like the the investing and stuff and like the market and stuff in today's world, like one day the market will fall down. I think that's always a guarantee. I don't know where, I don't know when, so that's never guaranteed, but it will go down somehow. I hope during those times there will be a massive change for people to hopefully make a change. Like it's the same as like the 2008 financial crisis. I hope I don't wish for anyone to lose a lot of their money, but sometimes it's good for companies to get down on their knees and like begging for like all of the money will when the market will all crashing down. But yeah, it's also a good opportunity for you to buy cheap stocks in that case. But I always like makes me it always makes me wonder like if that will ever come. I wonder what changes will make from that. And I hope there's no chaos from that going to happen, because there's a lot of unemployment and stuff. There's still like bad stuff that will unfortunately happen for the average people. So yeah. But I'm kind of wishing like there will be a change after that, hopefully.
Peter Thiel, it's not about just unmasking every single human person on the internet. It's about invoking a level of fear into the discussions that we're allowed to have. The government wants to dox every single person on the internet. They want to
Scary.
monitor every single bit of communication that we have. Because I think ever since the internet was created, the powers that govern us realized how scary of a technology it is, right? Letting people share information unfettered, letting people communicate with each other unfettered, letting people talk to each other unfettered. There's a reason I use a lot of self-hosted technologies and I talk a lot about end-to-end encryption. Hell, I even showed you guys how to use PGP encryption to share messages back and forth across normie communication channels. Because I think you have a right to privacy, and I think people have a right to talk to each other. People have a right to share information without being surveilled, without being monitored, without feeling scared to speak what's on their mind. There's a lot of places in the world where you can't speak what's on your mind. Look at what's happening in Iran, for instance, right now.
Yeah.
That, to an extent, could start happening in places like the United States. They could dox every single person out there, and it means speaking against the government becomes a near impossible thing to do. We shouldn't tolerate that, and we shouldn't let it happen. And we shouldn't be allowing companies like Palantir and people like Peter Thiel and Alex Karp to be the arbiters of what we're allowed to do on the internet and control our discussions. And ultimately, harvest all of our data and do God knows what with it,
Yeah.
That's
Scary.
all I have to say. But it's getting late. I'm sure I've been yapping longer than you probably wanted to listen in, but keep what I said, especially in the last 5 minutes of this video, as some food for thought. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Dislike it if you dislike it.
Yeah, friends, that's pretty heavy actually, like very scary too. Like in hindsight right now, I'm actually like thinking that maybe a little bit optimistic when it comes to my viewpoints. Like maybe there is a way that the future can go wrong, and like yes, majority of this type of government and stuff, especially when it comes to like ignorance and stuff for people that maybe our chances maybe fail. Maybe we are going to live in the in the world of Iran, you know, like where they are spying a lot of their like citizens and stuff, and that's actually pretty crazy. And they're actually like trying to like kill their own citizens too, like even just trying to like speak out their voices and stuff, and even try to like have some freedom. Like, shit, man. I think they also like kill like 30,000. I think it's like 1,000 people that they've already killed because they tried to like because all the people, you know, trying to, I guess, try to protest against their government. That's how scary all this like type of like surveillance and stuff is, like knowing who you are to target and stuff. Like it's pretty scary. But yeah, it's actually very interesting to like see this. Hopefully, you know, and hopefully we can see a brighter future in the future. You know, in the future. I'm always like looking at the positive side of things, and it's hard to see like the future to make some changes if you don't see the positives, you know. Like we can get through this, like there is a way for us to like make some changes of this, and hopefully like a little bit of knowledge can, you know, really can inspire you, or maybe help your loved ones to even like use, you know, like some local stuff and like privacy oriented technologies so that you can use them more freely. So yeah, friends, thank you for watching, and I really hope you'll be safe out there in this crazy world, man. It's crazy. Yeah, good. So yeah, friends, thank you for watching and good afternoon.